one of the first steps after we have the foundation built, we're confronted with basically 3 different options. One is the traditional publisher. Traditional publisher, McGraw & Hill, Random House, Simon & Schuster, all those things. Then there is Vanity Press. And what I'm talking about with that, and this is publish on demand. Then there is self-publishing, print on demand, and offset. Professional publishing services, and then there's MS Word ebook publishing. One of the things with traditional publishers, you lose complete control. They don't like your title. They don't like the chapter 1. They don't like whatever it is, to and including the printing style, the pricing, everything. You lose control. Revenue. Traditionally, you will receive 3 to 7%.
That's it.
That's it.
7% is pretty good.
And 7% is good, and they really like you, and they want you for that. Now, 3%, let's see, 3% on a $20 book is, wow, I get 60 cents a book. And you know what about that? They expect you to spend $1 a book on marketing it, to market it for them. So you're only losing 40 cents a book. Now, I will say, if you are positioned, like for example, Laura Stack, the past president of NSA, she had all the clients that she wanted. She was making all the money that she wanted. And so, in a way, Random House or McGraw-Hill, or whoever published her latest book, was doing her a favor because then she didn't have to do all of that stuff, and it just raised her stature because she had a high visibility platform anyway, because she was president of the National Speakers Association. You see how that could be a trade-off for her. You lose all the rights, including ISBN and all those things, including foreign rights, electronic rights. Let's say, for example, you go with a traditional publisher, and they're really not too good at electronic, but you gave them those rights when you signed the contract. So they come out with a PDF, which is the least beneficial form of format, and then boom, you are out of luck because you can't go and do a multimedia book, you can't do the embedded videos, all those things. Okay? So, in traditional publishing, 90% of all books in traditional publishing don't make print costs back. 90%. Retail pricing. This is something that you'll want to learn from publishers. When you price your book, unless it's a multimedia book, which you saw what I did with $49 because I'm selling 10 hours of video, 10 hours of audio, I'm saying that that's part of the value. But traditionally, just for a book, it's 8 to 12 times the print cost. That's what they operate on. Now, since that is traditional in the book industry, it's important for you to think about that as the retail price of your book. We're going to go into the pricing a lot more, but think about that parameters because you certainly don't want to leave money on the table. Does that make sense? All right. One of the stories in traditional publishing, Wayne Dyer. How many people know Wayne and heard of him? Speaker, great speaker. He got a large advance from a major publisher to begin his career. They couldn't sell it. He bought it back. He bought the whole print run back at 10 cents on the dollar. Basically, at that print cost, he bought them all back himself. He was a professor. He was making money. And he put them in his, the story goes, he put them in his trunk, and he would go from radio station to radio station doing interviews. He was really engaging. He had the books in his car. He would go to the bookstore, do a book signing, and the rest is history. Not everyone has that, shall I say, capacity. But you see the challenge that traditional publishing offers. If he would have done that himself, well, basically he did it himself anyway, because he had the opportunity to buy it back. But that doesn't happen with everyone. I don't know how many people know Louise Hay. Louise Hay, the first little book, it was a booklet that she had. I met her before she was famous. She was actually a New York actress, model, and she had this little booklet. I mean, smaller than Doug DeVitri's QR $49 book. I think it sold for $2.95, a little blue booklet, The Metaphysical Causes of Illness.
And that was taken from a public domain. That wasn't her work. It was the religious science work.
Yeah, it's still one of the best books around, and in its excellent, efficient communication. And she catapulted that little booklet to being published author, speaker, and now she owns her own publishing company. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I'm here. Her Balboa Press is really not a self-publishing house. It's really a vanity press, and we're going to talk about what that is. And that's why I'm, sharing this information. I bumped into some people that literally spent thousands of dollars more and put themselves in a position of not ever making money ever on their book because it was in that genre. But you'll see the numbers in a minute. Another story that I like to remind people of, Mark Victor Hansen with his Chicken Soup for the Soul was turned down by 37 publishers. Now, how many publishers would you go to?
38.
Yeah, maybe. And then you might not make print costs back if you go do the erroneous songs. I figured if I'm going to do that kind of effort to get my book sold to a publisher, I'm going to do it directly to people and make 9% instead of 3%. That's just the way I looked at it. Now, I could be wrong. So, traditional publishers are great if you have an extremely large following already, have a large budget, and have publisher connections that they will accept your book, and you really don't care about making money yourself on books. You figure you're going to make it on speaking engagements. That's fine if you have that platform already built. If you're thinking that will create the platform for you, guess again. Won't happen. Except in the rare instances like a Louise Hay, because she was virtually unknown until she started promoting herself through the AIDS and that sort of catapulted.
John?
So, yes?
Could I suggest that you add to that first bullet there, remind us how long it takes for a big publishing company to lose interest?
Well, not only to lose interest, but also from manuscript to end, it's about a 2-year process.
Yeah, that's a long time. But once it's out, they're saying, oh, good, now for the next 3 years I'm going to be selling. If it doesn't sell in the first 45 days.
Yeah, it's in the remainder pile.
Is this encouraging for us to do this?
Well, no, I think it's encouraging if you take control, and that's where we'll get to my solution at the end, because I think my solution makes economic sense, and it still allows for that tracking and potential profit. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's the flavor of the month. And if you're not the flavor of the month, and if you don't get traction right away, and if you don't have that following, and you haven't sold 50,000 books in the first month, chances are you're backlisted. And if you're backlisted, you're out the door. Cost of books. To you don't even get, one of the things that I didn't like about, as I investigated traditional publishing, they won't even sell you your own books, so you can sell it at the back of the room at 55 off. It would seem like 55 off, which they give to distributors, would be appropriate price for you to sell. But they're guarding their distributors and they're guarding their bookstores, so you get to buy them at retail. Isn't that nice of them? Actually, I was so upset when when I was thinking about getting a major publisher. I was going to start a distribution company so I could buy my own books at 40% off at least. Because I could have a book company. But that's sort of, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the state of the book industry, and that's why only 1 of 10 books are making money. And that's why Borders is going down, because there hasn't been the innovation that is foreign rights. Did you give those away? What about the electronic rights? Did you give those away? What about movie rights? Did you give those away? Most of the time in a standard contract you do. Audio and video rights. What if you wanted to come out with an audio book? Do they have those rights, or did you sign them away? And what if they don't know how to do audio books, and you want to do an audio book? Who owns the copyright? Usually you own the copyright, but you don't own the book. How do the rights revert back to the author? And what about additional products? All of those things are things that you have to be thinking about if you're going that route. I don't know. Is anybody interested in going in deeper, or you want to get another idea? Let's go to Vanity Press. This one is almost as bad. Pretty much, these are people like Ex Libris, Balboa Press. There was one other one that I bumped into. What they essentially are doing is they are providing you charging you a very substantial publishing fees, like $5,000 to get in, or $3,500. They have different packages depending on what you can buy. And then they print them on demand, which that's reasonable, but then they take 50% markup on those books, and you get half of what you would normally get if you would just do print on demand. So they maintain, not only did they charge her for the initial file, but they wanted to charge her very high rates to make 100 different typo corrections that she found. They were going to charge her several $100s to do that, which seemed a little bit outrageous. And then I said, well, I can do that for you. They said, oh, no, you can't. You can't have somebody else do that for you, because that's in our profit margin, and that's our book. And I said, that's not right. Revenue. As I mentioned, they usually charge you for the full price of what you would pay to do the self-publishing yourself. And then for example, a print-on-demand book, let's say, might be $4 printed. They will charge you $8 to buy that book that they paid $4 for. Is that a pretty good business for them? Yeah. They've got all their costs taken care of, and then they get 50% of every book that is sold, 50% of the profit. And see, if you don't know the cost of the printing of the books, you don't know that that's a good deal or a bad deal. Because, heck, you got your book out. See, what happens with that, it wouldn't even be so bad, but when you start taking 50% of the profits, and 55% went off to the distributor already, then we're talking about maybe you're making 10% instead of 7% that a traditional publisher would get. And you paid all the costs. Doesn't seem right. Anyway, so also they have limited or usually they have some kind of claim on the electronic rights, but it's really pretty vague because they really haven't seen the value of electronic rights yet. But as soon as they do, they'll probably try to grasp that. The challenge that I see with that is, let's say, for example, and it's an interesting possibility, let's say I did print on demand with them, with my book, and I didn't know all these things. And let's say I was adding 10 hours of video and 10 hours of audio, and I was charging $49. If I'm looking at it correctly, which I think I have, they would charge 50% of the profit that I'm making, even on the higher price. Because they go for the profits off of retail. It's pretty crazy. If you have an extremely large following again, a large budget, and you don't have any publisher connections, and then don't need the money, this might work too. All right. This is Balboa Press on Demand. You can go there online, but one of the things that I was surprised at, their top package, their cream of the crop, the Rolls Royce, is $8,000. $8,000 to do their full price, and then they still get 50% of the profit. Right. Ex Libris is almost the same. I looked at their price list. You'll see that. Here is $17.95. The 55% retail price is $9.87. The net retail discount is $8.08. The cost of goods sold is $5, which I think is pretty high for the price. And then they get 50% of that. So on their $17.95 book, you make $1.56. which is more than the traditional publisher, but who's making the most money here?
Yeah.
I think they're actually probably making more money than the distributor because they're selling it at 40% off, so they're only making 15%. And the bookstore is taking the greatest risk, but also they get returns. Oh, we didn't even talk about returns. That's a whole other example. You do get more if you sell it directly, but still, they're charging you $4.97 for the book. I buy the same price book on a real print-on-demand place for $3.47. So I don't know where they get the $4.97 as cost of goods sold, but I can tell you that this book, in units of 25, I only have to buy 25 books, $3.47, 148-page book. See, this is what I call publish on demand. Publish on demand is they're going to do all the little graphics design things, they're going to do your cover, they're going to take care of the ISBN, they're going to do all these things that I'm telling you how to do. They'll do all those for you, but they're going to charge you a significant amount, and then they're going to take half your profits without you being familiar with the book industry. And that, you know, I mean, for some people it might work. If they're not willing to talk with a graphics designer, think about things, work out a strategy, and they don't really care if they make money on it, it could work. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but for people that are trying to make some money on the book and continue to make money and get their message out more, I don't think this is the way to go.
Well, I think part of this is understanding why you want to write your book. If it's for establishing yourself as an expert, but if you're doing period, that's different. Like technically, I can call myself a best-selling author because I purchased a $3,000 product, and within 3 months, I submitted a chapter. I'm in a compilation. They had it up on Amazon. It went to the bestseller list on Amazon, and boom, it was done in 3 months, and I put very little effort into it. And part of it is looking at what was the value of me being able to say I'm a best-selling author. Personally, do I think I earned that title? No, but the technology that exists today catapulted me into that category in 3 months, and I wasn't willing to figure out a lot of this process.
Well,
but
also,
it took all the control away from me because they told me exactly what they needed to do. So for the book that's actually mine, that's my pride and joy, and I'm invested in, this is why I'm sitting here today. Because I could hire someone again, but it's not going to be my baby, my pride and joy, my heart's work, and my life's work. But I know why I'm sitting here today. So it's a matter of what do you want your book to accomplish for you.
there is a difference between a New York Times best-selling author and an Amazon best-selling author. Not to diminish either one, but there is a difference, and there have been people that have figured out ways to have them rise on top of the search engine in Amazon. Now, I don't even really care about that. I want to get my message out to as many people and help as many people as I can. This is the Balboa way. Camille does bring up a good point too. That whole compilation kind of thing. Ethel's involved with one. I've been involved with them. It is a very valuable way to begin the process of thinking about focusing and writing your thoughts. My first book was a co-author. That was very helpful to me. I'm in another compilation, but I haven't made any money on compilations. And I don't know if I've gotten much benefit. I'm always hopeful. In fact, the latest one, this lady had a compilation, and she's not doing the Amazon thing, and she's having 4 authors, and she's got 1,000 books sold before it's even written. Now that's, because and part of it is because they're interested in getting more of my work. This is the Ex Libris pricing structure, similar kind of thing. If you go to their website, you'll see their pricing structure. But one of the things that you'll see is they still have the packages. Their high package is $15,000. They get a little bit better. They get a little bit better pricing structure, but still $6. Let's see, for 148 pages, $8 if you're ordering 1,500 copies. You see how it's still inflated compared to $347? they're still adding on the price. Their ex libris adds to their price, but and also lessens the cost of the Balboa. Outskirts is also a pub on demand. That's the other one I was trying to think about. This is sort of some of the numbers. Depending on the plan, their highest plan, and see, this is something that's also very weird to me. They actually call the price for you. And what they want to do is they want to sell more books. So if you don't give them a whole bunch of money, their Sapphire is the most expensive plan. Yeah, I think I got that right. Yeah, no, the Sapphire is the least expensive plan, and so they're going to give you 15-cent profit on a book, and you're paying them to do the book. I mean, that doesn't seem right to me. I mean, unless, like I say, unless you think of it as a vanity press. I'm not concerned about making money. It's not my business. I'm just writing it. And this is true print on demand. True print on demand is you contract with people to do the publishing services. You connect with a person like Jacqueline, who's here, who did the book that I was mentioning, Becoming Your Greatest. They walk you through, so they get files to you that you take directly to the printer. Now that printer can be print on demand, which is very good quality, and then you don't have to have a whole bunch of books in your garage. Or if you get an initial order in advance, you could go print, and then you probably reduce your price maybe $1 a book. Instead of $3.50, you're probably paying less than $2 or around $2 a book. But you've got to make sure that you don't want to have 5,000 books sitting in your garage, because the more books that you order printing, it's just paper costs, because there's certain setup costs with it. And so if you have, in fact, the way it pencils out, if you have sold 1,000 in advance, you have paid for a 5,000 print run. You've paid for it. So the 4,000 is pure profit. That makes sense to me. I can pay for storage. I can pay somebody to do fulfillment for me. If all that money is profit, if it's paid for in the first 1,000 books. But you also maintain control. You also maintain control of the electronic rights. Here, chances are you are probably making, even at 55% discount, which many distributors are asking for 55% discount, because then they in turn distribute it to the bookstores, you still potentially will make approximately 15 to 20% on the price of the book. $2 to $3 a book, and somebody else is selling it for you. If you sell it yourself, you're going to be making $12 to $15 a book. Do you see how valuable it is to sell directly back of the room or off your website? That's why you almost have to have that internet presence, so you have a shopping cart, so you're selling some direct. It's so important to be speaking, so then you have an audience and you have some sales direct, where there are no 55% discounts. Make sense? The rights. One of the things about you doing the publishing yourself, you own the ISBNs. Even with working with me in the Masters of Influence Publishing, you own the ISBN. It is yours. You own the copyright, you own the catalog and print. Everything is yours.